Welcome back. Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa formally suggested we should change and raise our legal drinking age from 18 to 21. He was speaking today during the funeral service for the 21 young people who died in the tavern in Scenery Park in East London. Maurice Smith, this is the director of the Southern African Alcohol Policy Alliance. Maurice, good afternoon to you. Does changing the legal drinking age make a difference to who drinks and what age people actually start drinking?
Thank you, Stephen. Good afternoon. Look, we definitely believe that changing the age of from 18 to 21 is the right way to go. That is the World Health Organization position, and that is also what is done in many countries in the world. And there are a lot of social and medical reasons, actually, why that should happen. But we should caution that simply changing the age from 18 to 21 is not going to make a difference unless that is backed up by a number of other measures, such as limiting or banning alcohol advertising, decreasing the availability of alcohol, and increasing the price of alcohol. So it's not a silver bullet that's going to change anything. If that was the case, if the age on its own made such a huge difference, we wouldn't have kids as young as the age of 13 drinking right now. So it has to go along with a whole lot of other measures that will support it and will help to change the culture of drinking in the country, not just with underage drinking, but generally.
I mean, I think everybody wants something to happen, now. And that's not how it is. There's a famous World Health Organization report, as I understand it, on Russia. And they were able to, and they had a country that had, how do I put this, a culture of heavy drinking. I don't think they'll deny that. They were able to actually reduce the amount of alcohol drunk quite significantly by, as I understand it, doing three things. The things that you mentioned. They made alcohol more expensive, they banned advertising, and they started to limit the hours that bottle stores and drinking places were open. We should be doing that first, should we?
Well, we need to, first of all, get the legislation in place to do that. And that legislation, or at least legislation that would have taken us some way towards doing that, has been on the books since 2016. The cabinet approved a new national liquor policy in 2016, driven by the previous Minister of Trade and Industry, Davies, and that was based fundamentally on the World Health Organization recommendations. Based on that policy, the Liquor Amendment Bill was then mooted, and that went for a public participation process in 2016, 2017. But since then, it's been on hold. And as a consequence of that, there are, all of the challenges that we've seen over the past few years, under COVID, and as well with now the Enyobeni incident, have happened and will continue to happen until that legislation is changed. I mean, I think the message that came, we don't think that the president was even strong enough in what he said today, because he didn't actually commit government to a serious overhauling of the liquor legislation in the country. He did refer, importantly, to the need to provide alternative activities for young people to engage in, which is really, really important. And it's actually a travesty that, so long after the advent of democracy, that you still have an incredibly skewed allocation of recreational facilities in our society, because you still find that there are many, many more recreation centers, libraries, and other facilities per capita in the previously advantaged areas than in previously disadvantaged areas. And that just adds to the problem. The same applies to the policing of alcohol. It's much less policed in the disadvantaged areas, so alcohol is more easily available in licensed and unlicensed places and to underage people. So we need an incredibly aggressive, holistic, whole-of-government approach to dealing with this thing, where everyone in government takes the issue seriously, and we put ourselves on the road to a new reality. It's not going to happen overnight. The Russia experience took 10, 20 years, but it worked. And we have to start now, because if we don't start now, the time that we will find that we have an alcohol healthier society, an alcohol safer society, is going to be that much further down the line.
Is there a risk at all of any other consequences from raising the drinking age to 21. Let me just explain what I mean. I can imagine a situation, I've heard of situations, someone with experience told me once many years ago of how they were 19, 20 in the United States, would go across a state line just to find a drink, get drunk in a place far from home, get drunk far away from their parents, simply because that meant that they could do it. Now, obviously, here we have a different system. You couldn't just cross a state line. But what I'm talking about is someone at the age of 20, maybe drinking illegally, getting into trouble, and not going to an adult for help when they need it, because it was illegal for them to drink in the first place.
No, you're right, you're right. And by the way, one of the issues that Minister Cele raised when he first went to visit Enyobeni after the tragedy was that we don't actually have a consistent policy across the country around alcohol. We do have different standards in different provinces, not on the issue of age, but certainly on other issues like operating hours, number of outlets, type of licenses, and so on. So we agree with the minister that there should be a national policy, and that may actually require a changing of the constitution because liquor licensing is given to provinces to deal with. But with, again, I want to go back to what I said earlier on. Yes, those kinds of problems will happen unless we have a holistic approach to dealing with the issue of alcohol in the country. So just changing the age of drinking, you are definitely going to have people breaking the law, definitely going to have people, finding ways that they can have alcohol, even though they're underaged. That's why we need this holistic program, which is going to be comprehensive. It's not, when I talk about the issue of the 3 World Health Organization proposals, which is the advertising issue, which is really important because it will help to denormalize the use of alcohol, because that's really why these kids end up in the situation they do, because alcohol has been so normalized in our society. And then the availability and the increase in the cost, those must be done. But we also need to understand why is it that so many people turn to selling alcohol for a living. It's part of our history of apartheid, where black people were excluded from the economy. It's part of the problem of our economy, of unemployment. It's part of the fact that the Small Business Development Department doesn't do enough to help people transition to doing other kinds of businesses in their communities. It's the issue, as I said to you, of giving young people alternative things to do and giving young people a sense of a future as well. Part of the reason why young people turn to alcohol and drugs is because they are depressed, they see no future for themselves, so they just kind of lose themselves in substances in order to escape their reality. So that's why I say, yes, changing the age of drinking is important, but it's nowhere near going to be enough to deal with the problem. And the sooner, and we have heard that Cabinet is supposed to be having an emergency meeting on this issue, and the Department of Social Development has invited us to a meeting on Friday to discuss the issue. So, and we have sent, by the way, today a letter to the President, signed by a number of organizations and backed by all our alliance partners, calling for the President and Cabinet to have an urgent meeting with civil society to discuss this way forward. It is people in civil society, it's ordinary people in communities who are most affected by what happens with alcohol, and yet they have no voice. And that has got to change, because otherwise the loudest voice that's going to be heard is the liquor industry. And they've got the resources, the capacity to shout much louder than we have. And government has to recognize that, and government has to assist civil society to have a louder voice and to take the views of civil society more seriously. Those views
Maurice,
so apparent under Enyobeni.
Maurice, I'm going to have to leave it there. Thank you. Maurice Smith is Director of the Southern African Alcohol Policy Alliance. I do appreciate it.